Okay, so let's unpack this. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence on this deep dive, but usually we're talking about the software side.
Right, the algorithms, the code, the virtual cloud.
Exactly. But today, we are talking about the physical reality of that cloud. Because the cloud doesn't just, float in the sky, it lives on the ground.
And these colossal concrete and steel buildings.
Yeah. And building those structures is triggering an unprecedented physical shift in the American workforce right now. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at an explosive Bloomberg report that dropped on March 6th, 2026.
And it is a story that, honestly, every single person listening to this right now needs to hear.
Especially if you're a construction business owner, a contractor, or just someone insanely curious about how the world is actually put together.
It really is a phenomenal subject to explore, because this is fundamentally a labor and infrastructure story that's disguised as a tech update. What we are seeing is a $700 billion AI data center boom.
$700 billion.
Yeah. And the sheer scale of this is pushing developers so far out into rural America that they're having to build what are essentially temporary, self-sustaining villages just to house the construction worker.
The man camps.
Exactly. The industry is calling them man camps. And it represents the biggest workforce deployment shift since the 2010s shale oil boom.
It's just wild to visualize. I mean, you're talking about thousands of workers packing up their entire lives and moving to the absolute middle of nowhere to build server warehouses.
Right.
And if you're a contractor listening to this, you should care deeply, because this is affecting every single company competing for skilled labor in the country right now. It's completely changing the competitive landscape.
So physically, where is all this money landing? Because I'm assuming they aren't dropping 50-acre server farms in downtown Manhattan.
No, definitely not. The geography is shifting aggressively, and the numbers behind it are staggering. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, January 2026 saw a record-breaking $25.2 billion in data center construction starts. $25.2 billion in a single month.
Just to put that in perspective, that is the highest single-month total since record-keeping for this specific category began in 2020.
That's not a year. That is 31 days. The volume of capital moving into the dirt is almost hard to comprehend. And the trailing 12-month numbers paint an even wilder picture, don't they?
They absolutely do. The trailing 12-month data center spending hit $103.7 billion.
Wow.
That averages out to about $8.6 billion per month over the course of a year. And the pipeline isn't slowing down. There are currently 65 data center projects being tracked with potential starts in just the next 6 months.
Unbelievable.
Those projects alone are worth $69.2 billion. And within that pipeline, there are 17 absolute mega projects, each one valued at over $1 billion.
So back to the geography of all this, where are these $17 billion mega projects actually breaking ground?
56% of this near-term spending is concentrated in the South, and another 26.7% is in the Midwest.
Okay, so a huge rural push.
There is a very specific operational reason for that shift. These structures require unbelievable amounts of land, water, and power. They are competing fiercely for those resources, and that competition is pushing developers out of traditional tech hubs and deep into rural areas.
Places like the Texas Panhandle.
The Texas Panhandle, the Dakotas, rural pockets of Virginia. These are areas where there is virtually zero existing infrastructure to support a project of this magnitude.
Which means they have to build everything from scratch.
Right. The power infrastructure spending alone, just to get electricity to these remote sites, is projected to rebound to $27.8 billion in 2026, up from $16.5 billion in 2025.
And here is where it gets incredibly fascinating. You have these billion-dollar mega projects going up in the Texas Panhandle, but there are no towns there.
Nothing.
There are no hotels, no apartment complexes, no grocery stores to support the thousands of workers who have to physically pour the concrete, run the wire, and build the structures. So what do the developers do?
They have to build the town first.
Exactly. Welcome to the modern man camp. And we really need to define what a man camp is, because some of you might have this mental image of a bunch of pup tents and campfires out in the desert.
That couldn't be further from the truth. These are highly engineered, fully self-sustaining, temporary worker villages. They are basically instant cities.
Paint a picture for us. What's inside one of these?
If you're out there in the Dakotas building a data center, the man camp you live in has its own sprawling dormitories. It features giant commercial mess halls designed to feed thousands of workers 3 high-calorie meals a day.
Plus, I read they have RV hookups.
Yes, extensive RV hookups for workers who prefer to bring their own rigs. There are huge commercial-scale laundry facilities, indoor recreation centers so people have a place to decompress after a grueling 12-hour shift, and dedicated full-time janitorial staff just to keep the whole village running cleanly and safely.
It's essentially a military forward operating base, but built for civilian construction crews.
That's a brilliant comparison. And there is a vivid historical parallel here that helps us understand the sheer scale of this. If you go back to the 2010s, we saw this exact same phenomenon during the fracking boom.
Oh, right in North Dakota.
Exactly. When shale oil exploded, energy companies had to pull thousands of roughnecks into the absolute middle of nowhere in places like Williston, North Dakota. The local towns of 500 people simply could not absorb an influx of 5,000 workers. It crushed local infrastructure.
So they deployed man camps.
The exact same workforce housing solution. They built these sprawling man camps to keep the workforce isolated and sustained. Now, history is repeating itself, but this time it's for the AI era. It's not oil they're drilling for, it's data capacity they're building.
And think about the incredible new secondary economy this creates within the construction industry itself. Building the workforce, housing, building the man camps has become a highly lucrative, entirely separate market for contractors.
It really is a whole sub-industry now.
Before you can even bring in the heavy machinery to break ground on a $1 billion data center, someone has to win the contract to build the $50 million temporary village for the workers. You have to clear the land, run temporary utilities, set up wastewater management, build commercial kitchens. It's a monumental civil engineering project before the actual project even begins.
It certainly is. And while that secondary economy is a goldmine for certain contractors, it also exposes the most critical bottleneck in this entire boom.
The labor.
Right. You can build the dorms, you can build the mess halls, and you can truck in the food, but you still have to find the human capital to fill those camps. And right now, there is an extreme crisis when it comes to finding skilled tradesmen.
Oh, this is the detail from our sources that completely blew my mind. Out of all the trades out there, there's a severe, almost paralyzing shortage of electricians. You cannot build a data center without miles and miles of heavy-duty, complex electrical infrastructure. But the tactics these companies are using to recruit them, I have to stop here, because our sources mentioned extreme recruitment.
It's aggressive.
They are literally flying electricians on private jets just to get them to the job site. Hold on, chartering private jets for tradesmen? That sounds completely unsustainable. How does a project not instantly bankrupt itself doing that?
It sounds absurd on the surface, but you have to look at the underlying economics of a tech giant versus a traditional construction project. When a major tech company is building a billion-dollar facility that will house AI infrastructure capable of generating tens of millions of dollars in revenue every single day, time is the most expensive variable.
Okay, that changes the math.
Dramatically. A delay of 3 months because they couldn't find enough electricians costs them exponentially more in lost market share and delayed revenue than chartering a Gulfstream jet or paying an 18% premium on hourly wages. They are playing a completely different financial game.
That makes sense when you put it that way. But imagine the ripple effect of that math on everyone else. Imagine being a local contractor. Say you're building a new pediatric wing for a local hospital in a mid-sized city. You put out a bid for an electrical crew, and your usual guys basically say, sorry, I'm taking a private jet to the Dakotas to wire a server farm because they're feeding me free steak, giving me free housing, and paying me 20% above market rate. How do you even respond to that?
You're hitting on the exact terror keeping local contractors awake at night right now. The labor pull effect is a colossal vacuum. When a project in a rural area offers a massive raise and zero living expenses, it just sucks the regional labor pool dry.
It pulls workers entirely away from everyday residential projects, commercial builds, and traditional civil infrastructure. Your local hospital renovation is suddenly competing with a $700 billion tech juggernaut.
Which means if you are a contractor listening to this, you cannot operate blindly. You cannot just hope your crew shows up next Monday.
Because hope isn't a strategy.
Exactly. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence report, tracking this specific geographical data helps contractors see exactly which markets have the tightest electrician availability. It shows you precisely where the labor is being pulled from and the specific regions it is flowing into.
So you can actually plan ahead.
Armed with that intelligence, mid-sized contractors can plan their workforce deployments 60 to 90 days out, rather than waking up one morning and realizing half their electrical crew just signed contracts to live in a man camp in Virginia.
It forces you to look at the board and play chess instead of checkers.
Yeah.
Because if you're a mid-sized contractor right now, you're basically facing three unavoidable realities. Option one, you're bleeding your workforce to these mega projects because you simply cannot match an 18% pay premium. Option two, you are capturing this work yourself by pivoting and becoming a subcontractor on these massive data center projects. Or option three, you are carving out a niche, building the physical housing infrastructure, the man camps themselves.
But here is the critical pivot point. The sources we reviewed showed a clear dividing line between the companies thriving in this environment and the ones falling behind. Capturing this opportunity requires a tremendous amount of operational scale.
You're dealing with mega projects.
Right, which means a staggering amount of paperwork, coordination, and risk. The contractors who are successfully riding this wave aren't doing it with manila folders, whiteboards, and endless email chains. They are heavily relying on modern, AI-driven technology to scale up their operations.
So if you can't outpay a tech giant, how do you out-operate them? Our sources point to a major pivot toward AI administration. We've been looking at how contractors are actually pulling this off, and it all comes down to leveraging advanced systems. Let's talk about the features of this AI platform that the most successful contractors are adopting as a survival tactic right now. They're using AI project assistants to multiply their capacity without drowning in administrative overhead.
Think about the underlying problem. If you double your project load to take advantage of this boom, you traditionally have to double your project managers. That is expensive and nearly impossible during a labor shortage. But with the system highlighted in our research, contractors get incredibly smart document organization.
Which you need on these massive sites.
Exactly. On a project requiring thousands of workers, the documentation is monumental. This platform automatically tags, sorts, and categorizes photos, plans, permits, and RFIs.
And think about the endless coordination meetings. When you're trying to sync up the crew pouring the foundation, the crew building the power substations, and the guys framing the man camp dorms, you have daily field reports. This system takes those long field reports and meeting discussions and automatically generates daily log summaries.
It pulls out the key takeaways.
Right. It highlights the action items and next steps instantly. Everyone stays on the same page, and the project manager gets to go home to their family instead of spending 3 hours in a trailer typing up a recap email.
Another severe bottleneck on these mega projects is the RFI process requests for information. When something on the blueprint doesn't match the physical reality on the ground, everything stops until that RFI is answered and approved. This AI platform actually provides RFI assistance.
By drafting the responses.
Yes. It looks at the historical context of the project, reads the existing documentation, and generates a draft response. It radically speeds up the communication loop, keeping the crews moving.
Wait, before we move on to the next feature, our sources mention things like API integration and ERP systems. For the guy out there pouring concrete or running a framing crew who isn't a software engineer, what does that actually look like in practice? How does that help them?
That's a great question. In layman's terms, an ERP is just the central brain of a company's business. It handles the accounting, the payroll, the big picture budget. API integration is just the bridge that allows different pieces of software to talk to each other automatically.
Okay, simple enough.
So, in practice, imagine a foreman standing in the mud in the Dakotas. He signs off on a digital delivery ticket for 100 tons of steel using a tablet. Because of API integration, he doesn't have to scan that ticket, email it to an admin, who then manually types it into a spreadsheet. The moment he taps approve on his tablet, that cost is instantly updated on the chief financial officer's dashboard back in an office in Chicago.
It eliminates the human delay.
Precisely. There is no manual data entry. The information flows instantly, and that ties directly into protecting your profit margins. When you are paying a heavy premium on labor, your budget is exceptionally tight. The system provides schedule risk detection.
To spot the bottlenecks early.
Right. It constantly reviews the project activity to spot bottlenecks and risk areas early, like noticing that the framing crew is consistently falling 2 days behind the concrete pour before it cascades into a massive, costly delay. And it pairs that with budget variance insights, identifying cost movement so leadership can see exactly where the money is bleeding in real time. On a billion-dollar project, catching a 1% variance early saves $10 million.
So what does this all mean for you? Let's bring this all together. We are witnessing a $700 billion virtual AI boom that is physically, literally reshaping the map of rural America. It is pulling tens of billions of dollars in power infrastructure to places that used to be empty fields.
It's inflating wages across the board.
It is bringing back the sprawling, self-contained man camp. And most importantly, it is forcing every single contractor in America to completely rethink how they deploy their workforce and manage their daily operations.
It is a phenomenal shift in human capital, and it leaves us with a totally new, slightly haunting angle to consider. We've talked about what it takes to build these structures and the instant cities required to house the workers. But what happens in a decade?
When the construction is over.
Exactly. If these man camps are essentially instant, self-sustaining cities built around rural data centers, what happens to these physical places when the server farms are finally finished and fully automated? A modern data center doesn't require thousands of employees to run. It requires a handful of technicians and security guards. Are we currently pouring billions of dollars into building the high-tech ghost towns of the 2030s?
That is a chilling and brilliant point. Imagine these colossal dormitories and mess halls just sitting empty out in the plains next to a billion-dollar building humming quietly in the dark with no humans around. That is definitely something for all of you to chew on as you watch this AI boom unfold in your own local markets. All right, that is going to wrap it up for us today.
It's been a great deep dive.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your preferred platform. It really helps us out. Share this deep dive with your colleagues, your business partners, or your team. Anyone who needs to hear this discussion and understand where the labor market is aggressively heading. And finally, if you want to understand the technology we discussed that is helping contractors scale and survive in this crazy environment, visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn more. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.